How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball. Welcome back to another review of the Premier League. And what a ginormous weekend it was in the Premier League this week with, title clashes yesterday, which we'll get into later in the episode. But let me remind you how the scoring system works from the Predict the Prem. It's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. As it stands, 329 to Sim, 333 to myself. Let's see how this week panned out. And we start off at St James's Park. And I said in the preview, this game promises goals. And that's exactly what it delivered. It finished 4-3 to West Ham. West Ham went 3-1 up, and Newcastle coming back really late with Harvey Barnes, 2 goals in the last couple of minutes for them. Sim went for 2-1 to West Ham. I went for 2-2. But what a game this was.
Incredible. West Ham even fell behind before going 3-1 up, so they had their own comeback to come back from, and then Newcastle ended up taking all 3 points. What was incredible about it is how much went against Newcastle in going into this game. Lascelles ruptured his ACL in the first 15 minutes. Miguel Almiron then picks up an injury midway through the second half as well. So it was pretty incredible that they had all these hardships going into this game, and they were 3-1 down after a brilliant counter-attacking performance from West Ham. Kudus running absolute riot. Jared Bowen with a brilliant goal on the counter-attack as well. But Newcastle just never gave up. But what I would say is this game maybe hinged on a very controversial penalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I didn't think was a penalty. It was never a penalty.
I don't understand how they give that penalty. But he gives it, he goes over to the monitor, he takes another look at it and still gives it. And even though he was going over to the monitor, I know when you go over to the monitor 99 times out of 100 he's going to give it. But I think you need to use common sense. The referees need to use common sense. Even if they're being asked to go over and viewing the situation on the monitor, they need to make up their own decision and not just go with it every single time. Agreed.
I don't think VAR should have got involved at all. I thought it was a horrific intervention. I've seen it back. If anything, you could argue Gordon fouls Phillips, if anything, because he's the one who puts his foot in between Phillips and the ball to make sure that there's contact there. So he actually stops Phillips from kicking the ball. So I do feel for Phillips, even though, after the game, he was had a bit of an altercation with the West Ham fans, maybe off the back of that moment, which, you can't really blame him for. I don't think it was really his fault. But West Ham were kicking themselves 3-1 up in that kind of situation. And even though that penalty went against them, you got to not collapse like they did. And then they completely collapsed in those last few minutes. And Harvey Barnes with that really great brace right at the end.
Yeah, I do think Newcastle did deserve it, though. I think for the majority of the game, they was the ones in the ascendancy. West Ham did kind of try and hit them on the counter, and they did that to good effect for the 3 goals that they did score. But I did think Newcastle deserved to win the game, to be fair. So credit to them for coming back the way that they did. But back on to Calvin Phillips, as much as that penalty didn't deserve to be given, it was another stinker from him, though. He put in a shocking performance, so lackluster in the middle of the park, so easy to get past as well. Just something you don't associate with Calvin Phillips prior to his West Ham days. And he came on at 3-1 up, and they ended up 4-3 loss.
Well, he was also caught completely off guard for the 4th goal, wasn't he? Harvey Barnes cut inside him like he wasn't even there, and obviously it was a brilliant goal from Barnes. But Phillips of old, or Phillips maybe before his City move, probably gets closer to Barnes in that situation. So it's not really working out for him, obviously. And the way the fans clearly have not taken to him, it looks like at the moment. He's still got 8 games to prove himself, but when he's, putting his middle finger up at the away fans who've travelled there, I know they're shouting things at him, so I guess they can't really have anything to argue about when Phillips is giving something back. But it's never a good situation when that's happening.
Yeah, but this is the nature of football fans. Professional players need to be acting professional in those situations, and just he didn't need to turn around and put his finger up. He could have just walked past and gone and sat in the bus like any other professional probably would have done. But in terms of Calvin Phillips, I mean, we spoke a lot pre-season about who we think our flop of the season going to be. I said Kai Havertz, you said Harvey Barnes. Both of them in this game, you got to say Harvey Barnes came good, and Kai Havertz obviously been coming good in recent weeks. But there's nowhere else to look, in my opinion, than Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, he's been atrocious so far, definitely.
Let's go to the vitality. It finished Bournemouth 2, Everton 1. Sim went for 2-0 to Everton. I went for 1-1, but it did finish 2-1, which carries on Everton's shocking form, and they just can't buy a win at the moment.
And they were terrible. They didn't play well. I know they scored and obviously got back in the game. And to be fair, they should have had a penalty at 0-0 as well. Calvert-Lewin was fouled in the box by Tyler Adams, and it was a really bad decision from the referee not to, all the VAR not to intervene, because I thought it was a clear trip. But if you look at the goals that Everton had conceded, so poor defensively. It's not what you associate with Everton. Really poor, like from Godfrey and Tarkowski, losing Solanke. They had two defenders against Solanke, and one cross in between the both of them, and takes them out of the game. And what's also worrying is the only way they scored was from a terrible error from Neto. A long ball comes into the box, Neto comes to claim it, and he drops the ball, and obviously it falls to Beto. Lucky for him, he has an empty net to put it in. So they weren't really creating much, and that's a real worry, because Everton at the beginning of the season, as much as they weren't maybe getting the results, they were creating a lot of chances and they were getting a lot of misses. But at the moment, it seems as though those chances are really drying up. And then if things like that Coleman own goal happening in the last minute, then all of a sudden you've put yourselves in a very, very difficult position when it comes to this relegation fight.
Yeah, as it stands with relegation, they are 3 points above the drop at the moment, with Luton in 18th, Forest in 17th. And you're looking at all these three teams between Everton, Forest and Luton, and even Burnley. Burnley look the best on form out of all of them at the moment. The other three just can't seem to buy points at the moment.
Yeah, Everton haven't won since December. I think Nuno, since he's taken over at Forest, has won 3 in, I think, 17 or something in all competitions. And Luton as well. As much as they are playing well, they can't seem to get the wins on the board. So it's almost as if no one really wants it. But I guess that's always the case when relegation scraps. A lot of the time, all of them, they're not on good form. That's why they're down at the bottom. But look. When it comes to Everton, they're definitely not out of it. They're definitely not out of it. If they're in this, they've just lost 3 in a row, and they're not in good form whatsoever. And I see on social media now a lot of fans getting on Sean Dyche's back with the way they're playing, because they're just not playing well at all at the moment.
No, they're not. They need to find something from somewhere. I do think they will stay up. Because I think when you're looking at the three teams, I do think they've got enough quality maybe to stay up, but they need to start picking up points. That's the reality. Let's go over to Stamford Bridge. It finished Chelsea 2, Burnley 2. Sim went for 3-0. I went for 3-1. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing with this game. You know, sending off, I think it was about after 40 minutes for Burnley, and you're thinking, Chelsea going to go romp this now. Cole Palmer gets a penalty soon after that, and you're really thinking, all right, Chelsea in the driving seat, there's no chance Burnley could do anything. The game ends up being 2-2. What a kick in the teeth for Chelsea. What a kick in the teeth for Maurizio Pochettino. How did they let this happen?
Well, first of all, I want to say the red card, I thought, was a disgrace of a decision. Was never a penalty, in my opinion, and because it was never a penalty, it was never a second yellow. So I thought Chelsea got very lucky there. The referee got that completely wrong. I actually think VAR should have got involved, because I don't know how they've decided to give the penalty there, because all he's got one hand on his shoulder, but he's not even pulling it. It's like not much contact. I thought it was a terrible decision, really weak. And then obviously Palmer gets the Panenka, but Burnley never gave up, and with 10 men to come back twice, because they went, obviously Palmer gave them the lead as well. Really impressive. You've got to give a company a lot of credit, because at this stage of the season, considering how far behind they've been for a lot of the season, to still have them fighting and battling for every point, and going away at Chelsea. I know Chelsea aren't having the best of times right now, but still, they've got great players, and the fact that they were able to contain Chelsea to a certain extent and also cause them troubles. And if it wasn't for that header off the bar in the last minute, they could have won it 3-2. Rodriguez had a brilliant opportunity, but the equaliser for Burnley was an absolute howler, I thought, from the keeper Petkovic. Had 2 hands on it and slipped right through his fingers.
And the Chelsea fans have been waxing lyrical about him recently as well, so it'll be a massive kick in the teeth to see him do that. I mean, you think like with Cole Palmer putting them 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go, that game was done and dusted. And straight away they got up the other end and score. It was quite unbelievable. And where does this leave Pochettino? It's an embarrassment of a result for Chelsea. It really is.
Yeah, the reality is they're still 4 points off 7th with 2 games in hand on West Ham, I can see here. So they're probably still looking at that, but they just don't seem to have the consistency whatsoever, do they, to put a run together? Albeit, I'm looking here, they are unbeaten in 5, so maybe they'll take some solace in that. But being 2-1 up and 1-0 up against 10 men Burnley, who are not the best side defensively, the fact you can't put that to bed, and in fact, and also the fact that going into the last few minutes, Burnley look more likely to win it than you, that has got to be a serious concern for Pochettino. But for Burnley's point of view, a really great point, leaves them still just 4 points away from safety, which is a lot better situation than they found themselves a few weeks ago, obviously after the points deduction. So look, they've given themselves a fighting chance, and on this evidence, they're clearly all still battling for it.
I said it before, that the teams that they're fighting with, Burnley, Luton, Everton and Forest. Burnley are on the best form out of all three. You're looking at their last 3 results, 2 all away at West Ham, where they were 2-0 up and probably with a better team on the day. 2-1 win at home to Brentford as well, which was quite impressive. And now going to Stamford Bridge and picking up a point with 10 men. So you've got to say and without their best player as well, Fofana.
Are they starting to click finally this season? Maybe.
Maybe. You're looking at the next couple of games. Wolves at home, a depleted Wolves. I wouldn't be surprised if they get some points in that game. Everton away, which is going to be a massive game. So if they can get some points in their next 2 games, then they're in a real chance of staying up.
I think if they win in midweek, the belief will start to flow.
Yeah, agreed. Let's go over to the City Ground. Nottingham Forest 1, Crystal Palace 1, and it always seems to work out this way. When me and Sim predict the same result, it's more than likely a 5-pointer, and that is exactly what happened in this game. What did you make out of this one?
Yeah, you know what? I was really disappointed in Forest. I actually thought Palace were the better team. Given that Forest had more on the line and they're at home, you would have really thought that they would have taken the game to Palace and really dominated, but they didn't. Palace were the ones making all the running. Eze was causing all sorts of trouble. He was floating in those half spaces, and obviously he set up the opener for Mateta with a really great assist. And he was the best player by a mile, and he was the shining light in the game. But Palace can hold on to it. And you know what? That header from Chris Wood was an outrageous header. I don't know if you've seen it. Brilliant ball into box by Gibbs White, but he's like just outside the 6-yard box, and he's got his back to goal, and he somehow flicks it, and he lobs Henderson, who was on his line. I don't know how he does it. It's outrageous finish from Chris Wood, but it needed a finish like that to get back in the game. So, look, a point. In the circumstances, considering they were second best for a lot of the game, I guess you take it. But I think the level of performance at the moment has got to be concerning, considering they're in a relegation dogfight. They've got to be battling for every point, and they're playing at home to Palace and getting dominated. That's got to be a worry.
Massive worry. Nottingham Forest have been disappointing for a while now, week in, week out. They can't seem to be... Because when Nuno first came, the performance level did get better, and they were performing well, even if they weren't getting points. But now they just seem to be... just getting through games just about and not playing well at all. So it's a major cause for concern for Nottingham Forest. And Nuno doesn't cut a very happy figure on the sidelines either. But Chris Wood, on the other hand, he's the one that's getting them out of trouble. 10 goals this season, 1 assist, 11 goal contribution for Chris Wood this year. I think that's quite a remarkable return for him.
Yeah, fair play to him. He's always been a decent Premier League striker, but Nuno seems to be getting the best out of him at the moment. So that's one thing he's doing right.
Yeah. Let's go to Bramall Lane. Sheffield United 3, Fulham 3. Both of us went for Fulham win. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 2-0. What a game this was. What did it go 3-0?
3-1.
3-1. Ben Barrington Diaz getting the double. And then a late rally from Fulham with De Cordova-Reid and Ricardo Muniz in injury time. And what a goal from Muniz with the bicycle kick. What a goal that was.
Goal of the weekend. There was a lot of them. But yeah, brilliant finish from him. Carries on his unbelievable run in front of goal. Sheffield United will be kicking themselves. It's the second week in a row they've lost a 2-goal lead.
Yeah.
So, and you think about it, if they would have... taken those 4 points, they would have been above Burnley and really knocking on the door of safety. So that I think Wilder will be looking at that thinking we had two games in a row now. We've had 2-goal leads, and actually we could have put ourselves in a decent situation, but they've given them both up, and they're still 7 points away, which again, 7 points compared to what it was a few weeks ago, which was I think over 10 potentially. Bit of a better situation, but still they need to be getting wins on the board, and when you're giving up 2-goal leads, you're never going to put yourselves in a situation to claw that points tally back. But at least he'll take some sort of pride that they are still fighting, they're getting these leads, and they're starting to score more goals. But the fact that they're continually giving them up late on has got to be like that's probably going to be the final nail in the coffin, really.
Yeah, I don't think there's any coming back from this for Sheffield United. You're looking at the games that they do have. They got to go to Anfield midweek. They play Chelsea the week after. A few weeks later, Man United, Newcastle away. Last game of the season against Tottenham. I can't see them getting many points in these games.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for them. So I think they needed to get the points in these last two, and the fact that they gave it up, I think will frustrate Wilder very much. But good fight back from Fulham, 3-1 down with 5 minutes to go, and they clawed it back, so fair play.
And I don't know if you saw the celebrations from Wilder. I think, was it when they went 3-1 up, or maybe it was a disallowed goal when they could have gone 4-1 up, but he was running down the touchline, giving it his all, only to draw the game.
Never celebrate too early, especially when there's 14 minutes stoppage time.
Let's go to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham 2, Luton 1. Sim went 4-1, I went 3-1. I thought I was going to nick it right at the end when Spurs were pushing. But look, it was a game that Spurs did dominate for the whole game. It wasn't the best performance from Spurs, let's put it that way, but it was a fully deserved 3 points.
Yeah, I think Luton obviously took the lead of it after 3 minutes, but it was pretty much backs against the wall stuff for them throughout the majority of the game. I thought Spurs were the better team throughout. They were the one creating chances. I think Luton benefited massively from basically 2 1-in-a-million events. One of them, Son went round the keeper and then hit both posts, and the other one, Brendan Johnson has a shot inside the 6-yard box and it just rolls across the line, and it looks like it's over the line, but by the sliverest of margins, Doughty was able to keep it out. But I think Spurs, made the pressure pay at the end, and obviously Brendan Johnson came on in the second half, changed the game. Brilliant cameo from him in that second half. And Spurs should have been out of sight before they did get the winner. Didn't take their chances, but Sonny comes in clutch yet again with 5 minutes to go and keeps them right in that hunt for the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Good 3 points for Spurs. Would have liked to have seen a better performance, but hopefully that will come this week against West Ham. Let's go over to the other team in the top 4 race, Aston Villa, as they won 2-0 against Wolves at Villa Park. Sim went 2-0, so he gets a big fat 5 points for this one. I went for 1-1. But yeah, I think Wolves' lack of firepower really did show in this game. They were playing an 18-year-old kid up front, couldn't really make anything stick. They did put Villa under a bit of pressure throughout the game, in a bit of the first half, and a bit in the second half as well. But I think Villa's quality just shined through in the end.
I actually thought Wolves, on balance of play, you could argue they were the better team, to be honest. They were the ones creating the better chances, especially early on. And I think it was just the lack of forward quality, as you say. No Cunha, no Hwang, no Neto. Without those players, they were struggling to really find those quality moments against obviously a good Villa side, and I kind of felt like as soon as Villa took the lead, it was game over, because I just didn't see Wolves scoring, didn't see them getting back in the game. So that was disappointing from Wolves' point of view. From Aston Villa's point of view, obviously DRB scored the opener. Konsa with a large slice of luck for the second goal as well. He looked for a cross to the back post, ends up kind of dipping into the back post. So a big slice of luck for him to get that second goal. But after the second goal, they could have probably won it by more. But I feel bad for Wolves because they had chances at 0-0 and at 1-0 to get back in the game. Didn't really take them, and that cost them in the end.
When you're looking at Villa's performance, doesn't say something to be afraid of really in this top 4 race. But then again, you're looking at the Spurs performance. We did play a much lesser side, obviously, and we got the win. But I don't think either of these teams, Spurs and Villa, are looking too great at the moment.
I would say Spurs obviously had a better performance this week than Villa did, but Villa played a tougher team and kept a clean sheet and got the win. They'll be happy with that. I wasn't entirely convinced with that game, and as well, Ollie Watkins picked up an injury, went off at half time, so that'll be a massive concern. I think Emre said today, hopefully not too long, but he's not going to be playing in midweek, I don't think. So that's a
big loss, Man City away.
Watkins, their best player, and I don't think he's missed a game all season, and he's been so big for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they react to that. Yeah,
and we did say, I think, earlier, like a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, like if Villa do lose Ollie Watkins, where does that lead them? Because he's just so central to everything that they do. Hold up play, getting in the box, knocking in those headers, he just does everything for them.
Yeah, they don't have a really replacement. I think John Duran will maybe come in. Maybe they'll put Diaby up front.
It's a different threat, though. Like against Man City, it could actually work running in behind these kind of players.
True. I think Watkins is a good threat in behind anyway, but Yeah, maybe put Diaby up front in a false nine using his pace. Maybe that will give him a different kind of threat. You're right, but also it'd be interesting to see if he's also out for the following game as well. I think they got Brentford the next game. I think it'd be interesting to see how that affects their attacking play.
You're going to the Etihad without John McGinn and without Ollie Watkins. You do fear for them, though, don't you?
Yeah,
But
I think so.
much to our delight. Let's go to the last game, which was 8 o'clock kickoff on the Saturday night. Brentford against Manchester United. It finished 1-1. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Manchester United. And you know what? This was an absolute battering. Don't even look at the scoreline, because this game should have been 3-4-0 to Brentford. They were pumping them for the whole game non-stop. The chances that they missed, Ivan Toney just kept hitting it over the bar. And then Man United score in the 5th minute of stoppage time or the 4th minute of stoppage time or something, Mason Mount. And you're thinking, is this the biggest daylight robbery you've ever seen in the Premier League this season? And straight away, Brentford go up the other end and get the equaliser. But they will be kicking themselves that they didn't win this game, because they were by far the better team. Man United were terrible.
Yeah, imagine going 1-0 down in stoppage time and then still coming back to equalise and still feeling disappointed.
Yeah.
But after the balance of play, Brentford will be feeling that, because Tony had a countless amount of chances to put Man United behind, to put Brentford ahead, time and time again. What was concerning for Man United and what was good for Brentford is just how consistently they were just creating chances throughout the whole game. Literally, I don't think there was a 5-minute spell where Brentford didn't create a chance. They were every time they got the ball forward, it seemed as though Man United's defence just parted like the Red Sea. It was just every time Brentford were finding it so easy to get in behind, get into the box. I think it was a record, wasn't it, for amount of touches in a Premier League game inside the box and not to win, maybe, I think, potentially, because they had something like 80 touches inside United's box. But the thing is, it wasn't as if like they had like loads of possession and weren't creating chances. They had just so many chances. Onana had a great game. I think they hit the woodwork 4 times, and Mbeumo hit the woodwork. Yeah. Tony hit the woodwork. They had chances from set pieces. And I think it tells a story that even I was watching the game, even when Mount scored, I felt, I don't think this is over. Even after he scored, because they had 4 minutes like that, they'd been creating chances that whole time. I felt like they could create even more chances, even though they United the lead in the 5th minute stoppage time, and it was the most undeserved lead I think I've ever seen in any Premier League game ever in my time watching Premier League football. United were atrocious, absolutely atrocious. They got no bite, no aggression. When they get the ball forward, there's absolutely no ability to carve open the opposition, no patterns of play. It just seemed as though they went on the pitch to I don't know what they were trying to do. They weren't trying to stop Brentford. They weren't trying to hurt Brentford. They were just allowing Brentford to have the ball and create chances, and they were just lucky that Brentford had an off day on their finishing, because, as you say, it should have been 3-4, 5-1 with the amount of chances they had. So, and also, as I keep saying on Brentford, and this is another example of it, again, they played well. Again, they had a good performance, but they just couldn't get the win. And that's what I feel for them for.
Yeah, it's very frustrating for Brentford, because they have been playing well of recent weeks. Even that game against Arsenal a few weeks back, they played well, good defensive display, let it go in the last minute to Kai Havertz, who should have been off the pitch. And again, in this game, this is probably the best I've seen Brentford play this season. And they just couldn't get over the line, couldn't get the win. But what an assist by Ivan Toney in the last few minutes. Oh, my days. Like, where was that quality for the rest of the game when he was in front of goal?
I thought he had a great game, obviously.
He did have a good game, but yeah, he should have done more.
That assist, that touch. And then not only does he take the touch in front of him inside the penalty area, he takes it past Lisandro Martinez as well, who couldn't get near him. And then he has the presence of mind to put it back for Aya as well, pinpoint pullback as well. So capped off for a great display, but he'll be annoyed because, as you say, he should have been on the score sheet at least once. But caps off a decent week for him, because obviously England debut or whatever, England goal, a goal for England, and now a great performance here. And with Watkins maybe picking up an injury, maybe he sees an opportunity to try and still steal ahead of him in the pecking order.
100%. But the XG for this game, 3.29 for Brentford and 0.59 for Manchester United. It ends a draw. Quite unbelievable. But let's move on to Anfield. It finished Liverpool 2, Brighton 1. I went for 3-1. Sim went for 3-2. And I tell you what, there should have been a lot more goals in this for Liverpool, because I thought they were brilliant on the day. Mo Salah had about 12 shots throughout the whole game and only gets one goal. Look, Liverpool were convincing victors here, and I don't even think it was Brighton that played too bad. I just think Liverpool were brilliant.
Yeah, and when Brighton take the lead, you think, oh, is it going to be one of those days where Brighton turn up against a good team and they take the game to them and make it difficult? But Liverpool reacted really well to going behind, and it just seemed only a matter of time before they equalised. They had lots and lots of chances before Luis Diaz ended up getting the equaliser. And I thought in that second half, what's his name, Verbruggen, the Brighton keeper, he was just making save after save. He was having a fantastic game. Liverpool looked like they were getting frustrated. But that's the difference with Liverpool. They're so intense. They're so relentless that they will never stop going forward and trying to create chances and trying to open you up and trying to hound you and press you. And the pressure told. It was a really nice goal in the end. McAllister, nice through ball. Salah on his left foot slots it home, makes it 2-1. And the only disappointing thing is they didn't win by more, because they had the chances to take this game out of sight. And going to the latter exchanges at 2-1, there was a bit of anxiety, because Brighton, with the football they can play, they were starting to put Liverpool under a bit of pressure. But Liverpool obviously came away with the 3 points. They were able to they didn't succumb to it, and it was a brilliant performance. And look, given the result later in the day, it's an advantage to them in the title race now.
Yeah, 2 points clear. I mean, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the title race after we speak about this next game, but it was Man City 0, Arsenal 0 in a really dull affair at the Etihad. If Sim went for 1-1, I went for 2-1 to Man City. And Arsenal just turned into like a prime Jose team, really. They just stuck everyone behind the ball, trying to find moments on the counter-attack. Man City had 75% possession throughout the whole game, tried to break Arsenal down, but they just couldn't get past that wall, essentially. And I think they had, one shot on target, Man City, which will be a massive disappointment to them. I guess there's two ways you look at it. You go give Arsenal credit for the way they stifled Man City, but it feels like they only went there for a draw.
Yeah, I think there are two narratives. You could argue like Arsenal in years gone by, and especially last year, going to the Etihad, I think they've probably usually gone there and been brave, tried to play their own game, tried to go there and win, and it's been their undoing. They get undone. They get done by the better team, essentially. And maybe he went for a different approach this time. He's thinking, look, we're a different team now. We're a lot more solid defensively. Let's go there and show how solid we are and not get beaten, and show we can go toe to toe with them in that sense. So I understand that he didn't want to go there, get beaten, and show them and be outdone like they have done previously. On the flip side, this is a Man City team without Ederson, without Walker, without Stones, with Ake going off injured early on. Was there an opportunity to maybe try and exploit that situation, try and go at them a bit more and try and actually get a win there? I don't know if they were there for the taking, because you look at their back line, they're still chock-a-block of talent, but was this an opportunity there for Arsenal to actually go and try and win the game rather than just settle for a draw, especially in the title race? Liverpool winning earlier in the day, try and stay above them. I think there's that way you could look at it as well. If I'm an Arsenal fan, you're probably content.
That sounds horrible, mate.
Yeah, no, you don't want to put yourself in their shoes, but they're probably content with the result. I think you're never really going to complain about a point away at the Etihad, but when it comes to helping them win the league, I guess we'll have to wait and see come the end of the season how much of a help that point was. But maybe they'll regret not throwing a bit more caution to the wind and really go for more goals. But they'll argue they played a very clever tactical game and they got a clean sheet and a good point away at the Etihad. And I think it was a worse point for City than it was for Arsenal.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really good point for Arsenal. As much as I think that, obviously a win puts them in the driving seat and puts them probably as favourites for the title, I still think a draw is a good result on the face of things. They are only 2 points behind Liverpool. They have dropped further behind, but I still think they're obviously bang, bang in it. And when you're looking at all the fixtures, and I was actually looking at Liverpool's fixtures last night, and it's not a foregone conclusion. They've actually got a lot of hard fixtures, Liverpool, particularly away from home. You're looking at, they go to Manchester United in a couple of weeks, which they just lost to in the FA Cup, which is a hard game. They go to Fulham, which Fulham away for everyone, for all the top teams, seem to be a hard game at the moment. They got to go to Everton, which they've only won once or twice at Everton in the last 8 years or something, which is crazy. They got to go to West Ham and they got to go to Aston Villa. So every one of those away games is actually fairly hard.
Yeah, true. They are very difficult. I think Arsenal. I think Liverpool. Those games you read out, they're very difficult, and if they're going to go and win the league, they're going to have to be near perfect, given the form Arsenal on at the moment. But Arsenal have their own difficulties. I think in their they've got to come to the Tottenham Stadium. They've got a few other difficult games as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how, and also Man City. I think Man City still have some tough games as well. So I think it's going to be a real interesting battle, I think, between the three. I think that the lead could change a few times by my reckoning in the last 8 games or so.
It could do. I'm looking at Man City's fixtures. I do think they've got the easiest out of the lot, to be fair. In terms of what hard games they have left, they've got to go to Craven Cottage, they've got to go to Brighton, and at home to Villa this weekend without Watkins and McGinn. I mean, I think Man City got by far the easiest fixtures. I really do. So, look, it's all to play for. Anyone can win it still. A good point for Arsenal. They played a good game, but I think they should have taken the game a bit more to Man City, because if they win that game, they put themselves in an unbelievable position.
Yeah, if they win this game, they're big favourites for the title.
And I think they had it within them to win the game, because not only did they have the best defensive record in the league this season, like, they didn't have to double down on that defence. They could have handled what Man City were throwing at them whilst being a much more of a threat on the attack, in my opinion.
Yeah, but credit to them. I think they're the first team to stop City scoring at the Etihad since 2021. I think I read. So long time ago. So fair play, and I think they defended really well. To be fair, City didn't really create much. Yeah. It was very similar to the game of the Emirates, actually. Very similar. No, not really any chances at either end.
No show from Saka though. Gvardiol, I thought, pocketed him hard.
Yeah, Gvardiol had a brilliant game.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
And last but not least, let's go over to our star men. Sim went for Cole Palmer, 2 goals on the day in a 2-2 draw with Burnley, and I went for Ricardo Muniz. And we were there at the stadium watching all the goals come through, and I was like, finally, this Fulham goal he has to score. And what a goal it was. So 10 points for Sim. 5 points for me with the star men, which leaves us with a bit of a gap this week. 353 to 345.
Nice. I like the look of that. Look, it's all swings and roundabouts in the Predict the Prem. That's what I'm talking about.
So I think that obviously a big round of Premier League fixtures midweek. So we'll be back later on today for another episode of Predict the Prem. But thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.